"I'll marry any of your daughters," the Duke announced. Then the youngest walked in late. The morning began, as so many mornings in the Pemberton household did, with Lady Pemberton's nerves. "You cannot imagine what I have suffered," she announced to no one in particular, pressing a hand to her chest. "The anxiety, the palpitations. And where is Rosalind? Why is Rosalind never where she ought to be?" Lady Cordelia, eldest of the 4 daughters and the acknowledged beauty of the family, adjusted a golden curl in the mirror. "Rosalind is at that dreadful hospital again, Mama. She told you at breakfast. She tells me many things. That does not mean I am required to listen." Lady Pemberton clutched the letter for the 14th time that hour. "The Duke of Thornfield wishes to call upon us regarding a matter of matrimonial interest. Girls, do you comprehend what this means?" Lady Beatrice, the 2nd daughter, looked up nervously. "It means we must change gowns and bring out the good china." "It means," said Margaret, the practical 3rd daughter, "that someone has finally noticed we exist. Though why a duke would trouble himself with our family, I cannot imagine." "Margaret, really?" Lady Pemberton's tone turned sharp. "Your father's bloodline was impeccable, and our circumstances," she faltered. "The family's genteel poverty was London's worst-kept secret. Our circumstances are no concern of the Duke's. What matters is that he is coming here." A footman was dispatched to the Foundling Hospital with an urgent summons. The words emergency and family crisis deployed with only the loosest attachment to truth. At precisely 3 o'clock, the knocker sounded. The proposal. The man who entered seemed to bring winter with him. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in austere perfection. Dark coat, spotless cravat. Not a single unnecessary ornament. Black hair shot through with silver at the temples. Eyes gray as a storm over the channel, surveying the room with impenetrable neutrality. This was not a man who had come courting. This was a man who had come to conduct business. "Lady Pemberton, I thank you for receiving me on such short notice." Introductions were made. Cordelia, Beatrice, Margaret, each greeted with the same flat courtesy. "I understood you had 4 daughters. My youngest, Lady Rosalind, will be joining us shortly. She was delayed by charitable obligations." Charitable obligations. Something flickered in his gray eyes. Not quite interest. How admirable. He made the word sound like a disease. Tea was poured with trembling hands. Attempts at conversation about the weather and the Royal Academy exhibition were met with monosyllabic precision. Finally, the Duke set down his cup. "I believe in efficiency, Lady Pemberton. I require a wife. My title demands an heir, and I have determined to marry before the season concludes." His gaze moved across the 3 daughters like a man assessing horses at Tattersall's. "I have selected your family. Your bloodline is respectable. Your daughters appear healthy and of appropriate age. And your financial situation," the faintest dark humor crossed his face, "makes a proposal from me likely to be viewed favorably." Lady Pemberton made a small strangled sound. "I wish to be clear about my terms. My wife will want for nothing materially. In exchange, I require fidelity, discretion, and an heir. I do not require, nor do I desire, romantic attachment. I have seen what love does to people. I want no part of it." Silence. Even the fire seemed to hold its breath. "I will marry any of your daughters," the Duke concluded, his gaze sweeping across Cordelia, Beatrice, and Margaret with perfect indifference. "Care not which. Select among yourselves. I will call again in 3 days for your answer." He rose. It was at precisely this moment that the drawing-room door burst open. Rosalind's entrance. Lady Rosalind Pemberton had been elbow-deep in wash-tubs when the summons arrived. She volunteered 3 days a week at the Whitmore Foundling Hospital, and had spent the morning bathing feverish infants. She had not changed her dress. Her gray wool bore damp patches and an unidentifiable smear near the hem. Her auburn hair had escaped its pins and rioted around a face flushed from running through London streets. The first thing she noticed, no one appeared to be dying. The second, everyone was staring at her. The third, the tall, cold, impossibly arrogant man standing in the center of the room as though he owned it. "What is going on?" Rosalind said flatly. "Darling, How wonderful you could join us, Lady Pemberton said with strained brightness. May I present His Grace, the Duke of Thornfield. Rosalind's eyes narrowed. The Frost Duke, cold as charity, the most eligible bachelor in England, and the least likely to actually marry. Your Grace. Her curtsy was minimal. I apologize for my appearance. I was told there was an emergency. There is. I have just proposed marriage to your family. Rosalind blinked. I beg your pardon. I require a wife. I have informed your mother I will marry any of her daughters, and that they should select among themselves. It is a generous offer. I expect it will be accepted. Something inside Rosalind, something that had been building for years, finally snapped. Let me be certain I understand you, she said, dangerously calm. You have come into this house and announced that you require a wife in the tone one might use to order gloves. You have examined my sisters like livestock, declared any of them will do, as though their hopes and personalities were of no consequence whatsoever. And you expect this to be considered generous? Rosalind, her mother squeaked. Marriage is not a business transaction, Your Grace, or it should not be. It should be entered into with respect, with affection, with at least the hope of happiness. Not this. Not a man who cannot even be bothered to learn which sister he's proposing to, because it doesn't matter. Because we are not people to him. Merely potential broodmares for his precious heir. The Duke had gone very still. When he spoke, his voice was soft in a way that was more frightening than shouting. You speak of respect and affection. Lady Rosalind, tell me, in your extensive experience of marriage, did romantic love put food on your table when investments failed and debts mounted? Did hope of happiness keep the creditors from your door? Rosalind felt the blood drain from her face. He knew. I am offering your sisters a third option, he continued. Security without pretense. A business arrangement honestly acknowledged as such. And you think that's better? To spend a lifetime with someone who does not love you, does not even wish to? I think it is honest. I have seen what happens when people marry for love, Lady Rosalind. My own parents were desperately in love when they wed. Within 5 years they could not be in the same room without drawing blood. My mother died bitter. My father drank himself into an early grave. Love did not save them. Love destroyed them. The words hit her like a blow. This raw honesty about his own wounds, complicating everything. Your parents' marriage was one example, she said, softer now. It does not follow that all love ends the same way. There is more than one way for a marriage to destroy someone, Your Grace. For a long moment they simply looked at one another. Recognition. Two people who understood the reality behind society's performance. Then Lady Pemberton burst into sobs, and the Duke, with cool authority, silenced the hysteria and declared he took no offense. Indeed, found Rosalind's frankness refreshing. He departed with a final glance that lingered on her a moment too long. Her mother slapped her the instant the door closed. You wicked, selfish girl. Do you have any idea what you've done? I have told a man the truth about his abhorrent proposal. I cannot regret that. Love did not educate you girls, her mother said, voice breaking. Love did not keep us in society when every door should have closed. Practicality did that. The marriage of love you dream of is a luxury families like ours cannot afford. Alone afterward, Rosalind's certainty began to fray. She thought of her father's ruinous devotion, of her sister Eleanor's marriage, bright with promise, curdled into something she tried to hide. She thought of the Duke's eyes, cold, and yet for one moment vulnerable. He was not entirely wrong. But he was not right either. The letter. That evening a private courier arrived. A letter, sealed in dark red wax, addressed to Lady Pemberton. But Rosalind opened it herself. Lady Pemberton, upon further reflection, I find I have changed my mind. I will not marry any of your daughters. I will marry Lady Rosalind, and only Lady Rosalind. She has 1 week to accept or refuse. I am not proposing because I require her specifically. Any suitable woman would serve. But Lady Rosalind is the first person in years to speak to me as though I were a human being rather than a title. I find I am unwilling to give that up. I do not promise love. I promise honesty, respect, and the freedom to live as she chooses. I am offering her a partnership between equals. Whether she has the courage to accept it remains to be seen. Thornfield. Rosalind read it 3 times, then laughed. Not happily, but at the universe's cruel sense of humor. He had chosen her, not for her beauty, nor her accomplishments, nor her practicality, because she had called his proposal abhorrent. Partnership between equals. The freedom to live as she chose. These were the very things she had believed impossible to find. And the terrifying, traitorous truth. Some small corner of her heart was intrigued. The courtship begins. Her letter of refusal took 3 days to write and was, in the end, brief and businesslike. His reply arrived the next morning. I am in receipt of your refusal. I do not accept it. I shall call this afternoon. Thornfield. When she tried to have him turned away, first as not at home, then indisposed, then claiming plague, the butler reported the Duke's calm response, that if she truly had contracted plague, he would expect her to come down and give it to him personally, as that seemed more in keeping with her character. Despite herself, Rosalind's lips twitched. Downstairs, he stood by the window. How gratifying that you could tear yourself away from your charitable obligations. How gratifying that you could tear yourself from terrorizing London society. He observed that she had refused 6 proposals in 3 seasons, that she read philosophy and natural history, that she taught the older girls at the hospital useful skills rather than treating them as charity cases. I have been researching you. When I decided to marry one of your sisters, I knew nothing of any of you, he admitted. The decision to marry you specifically came after you demonstrated you were exactly the kind of woman I had spent 10 years convincing myself did not exist. One who is not afraid of me. One who sees past the title and finds the man beneath, wanting. I do not understand you, she whispered. You told me you don't believe in love. I was wrong. Not about romantic love. I still believe that is dangerous illusion. But a marriage of convenience cannot be built with any suitable woman. It requires someone specific. Someone like you. His voice roughened. Give me a chance to know you as you actually are. If after that you still wish to refuse me, I will accept it. But do not refuse me out of fear, Lady Rosalind. You are too brave for that. It was the word brave that undid her. No one had ever called her that. Come tomorrow to the hospital, she said. If you truly wish to know who I am, you should see where I spend my time. At the hospital. He came dressed simply, in clothes that could survive mud and grime. He learned every child's name, all 47, who liked porridge thick and who liked it thin, who feared thunder and who loved it. He read to the younger children without a trace of condescension. He sat with a dying girl, little Mary, through her final hours, and helped carry her small body away. Duchesses do not carry coffins, Rosalind told him afterward, in the hospital's small garden. I am not a duchess, and she was alone. Someone should remember she existed. His voice cracked. My mother lost 3 children before their first year. I was the only one who survived infancy. I found her journals after she died. Some losses cannot be borne, only survived. Rosalind saw for the first time the boy he had been before frost became armor. Why show me this? She asked. The real you? Because you would have seen through pretense. Because I am tired, Lady Rosalind. Tired of performing. Tired of being so cold nothing can touch me. He reached out, brushed her cheek. You reminded me I used to feel things. That I used to want more than mere survival. I need time, she managed. I am not asking for an answer today. I am asking only to keep earning your trust. Come back tomorrow. We are teaching the older girls to read. You could help. His expression shifted to something like wonder. You would trust me with children? I am trusting you with considerably more than that. Whether you prove worthy remains to be seen. The first kiss. Weeks passed. The Duke of Thornfield became a fixture at Whitmore, learning patience with the older boys' mathematics, sitting with the sick, arriving each morning at 10 in clothes growing progressively less fine. One evening, in the hospital's walled garden, Rosalind found herself saying, I have been thinking about your proposal. I am not ready to accept it. Not yet. But I am no longer certain I wish to refuse it either. You may have all the time you require. I will wait, Lady Rosalind. for as long as it takes." He stepped closer. "I told you I did not believe in love. I still do not believe in the love that burns hot and dies fast. But I am beginning to believe in something quieter, something built through shared work and shared grief. I do not love you yet, but I could. I believe I could if you gave me the chance. And if I gave you the chance," she said softly, "what would you do with it?" "I would learn you. I would build a life with you. A real life." "That is quite a list of promises, Your Grace." "Sebastian," he whispered. "Please, my name is Sebastian." It was the intimacy of his given name that broke through her defenses. She said it, "Sebastian." And his eyes closed, as if the sound were something precious. Neither of them knew who moved first. The kiss was hungry, raw. Two people who had spent too long alone finally finding something worth breaking their solitude for. Well, Rosalind managed afterward, breathless. "That was improper. Completely. Utterly." His laugh was shaky. "Does this mean you will consider my proposal?" "Truly consider it?" "I will consider it. But I still require time. And I still reserve the right to refuse you. Of course." He was smiling, actually smiling. The Frost Duke had begun to thaw. The scandal. 3 weeks later, the whispers began. Lady Pemberton heard them first from Mrs. Worthington, gleaming with malicious delight. Rumors that Rosalind had been seen alone with the Duke, unchaperoned, for hours at a time. That his intentions were less than honorable. Confronting her daughter, Lady Pemberton's fear curdled into fury. "You call him Sebastian? Do you have any idea what you have done?" Rosalind's sister Margaret revealed the source. Lord Ashby, her sister Eleanor's husband, had been asking pointed questions, watching Rosalind at gatherings. And then Eleanor herself appeared in the doorway, pale, trembling, eyes hollow. "Marcus has been obsessed with you since you refused to flatter him at the Pemberton ball. He does not tolerate defiance from women. He is feeding the rumors, Rosalind. He will not stop until he has ruined you completely." The truth settled like a shroud. Lord Ashby, charming, cruel Lord Ashby, was destroying Rosalind's reputation to punish her for existing outside his control. A letter arrived from Sebastian. "I propose we marry immediately, by special license, before the scandal spreads further. This will protect your name. I know this is not the courtship I promised, but I hope you trust my motives are genuine." She should have been grateful. Instead, a creeping unease took hold. Was he proposing because he wanted her, or because he felt obligated to rescue her? She needed to know the truth of her own heart before binding it to another. And so, cowardly, she ran. "Sebastian, I cannot marry you. Not like this. Not with scandal forcing our hand. I do not know if what I feel is love or gratitude or fear. I need time to discover the truth of my own heart. Please do not follow me. Rosalind." She fled to Devon, to the cottage of Miss Harriet Prentice, her former governess. Devon. Miss Prentice offered no questions at first. Only food, warmth, and silence. On the 4th day, Rosalind finally spoke. "I ran away from a man who offered me everything I ever wanted, because I was afraid of trusting him and discovering I was wrong. Of becoming Eleanor, trapped with a man whose kindness was only performance. You came here," Miss Prentice said gently but sharply, "seeking permission to hide. Permission to convince yourself running was the brave choice. But you know what it actually was. Cowardice. And something worse. A betrayal. You told this Duke, who opened himself to you despite every wound he carried, that his vulnerability was not enough. That no matter what he offered, you would never trust him enough to stay. The truth struck like a blow. He had shown her his scars, and she had confirmed every fear he'd ever had about love. "I need to go back," Rosalind said. "I need to tell him." A hard knock interrupted her. The door swung open, and the Duke of Thornfield stood on the threshold. Travel-worn, hollow-eyed, hair disheveled from days on the road. "The reconciliation. You," he said, voice rough, "are the most infuriating woman I have ever met. Sebastian, I specifically asked you not to follow. You left me a letter, Rosalind. Not even a conversation. I spent 2 days tearing myself apart, wondering what I had done wrong. And then I learned the truth about Lord Ashby. Your sister Margaret came to tell me everything, despite the scandal it caused her. I understood why you ran. Understanding did not make it hurt less. I was afraid, Rosalind said, voice breaking. Afraid of becoming Eleanor. Of trusting someone and discovering too late their tenderness was a lie. And so you decided I must be the same. That no matter how I proved myself, I would always be guilty of another man's crimes. He stepped closer, his voice dropping. Tell me I was wrong to trust you. Tell me you felt nothing. Tell me that, and I will leave you in peace. I can't. Her voice shook. Because it isn't true. I love you, Sebastian. I love you. And I was so afraid of that love I ran rather than risk it. Something in his expression cracked open. I have ridden across England like a madman. Do you think I would have done that if I hated you? Then what? I love you too. I don't know how to stop, and I don't want to. I spent 10 years building walls so I would never feel this frightened again. And you walked in late and knocked them all down. His hand cupped her face. When I said I would marry only you, I meant it. Not because you're convenient. Because you are you. Because a life without you in it is not a life I want to live. I don't deserve. Stop, he said firmly. Stop punishing yourself for being afraid. Everyone is afraid, Rosalind. The question isn't whether we feel fear. It's whether we let it make our choices for us. We are both imperfect. We will both keep making mistakes. But I would rather make mistakes with you than achieve perfection with anyone else. Miss Prentice, from the doorway, cleared her throat meaningfully and announced a very long walk in the garden. Marry me, Sebastian said once they were alone. Not because of scandal. Not obligation. Because I cannot imagine my life without you. Yes, Rosalind whispered. The wedding. They married the next morning in the village's small stone church. Rosalind in a travel-worn dress, Sebastian's cravat still slightly askew, with only Miss Prentice and a bewildered vicar as witnesses. It was, by society's standards, a complete disaster. By the standards that mattered, it was perfect. My Duchess, Sebastian murmured against her lips. My impossible, wonderful Duchess. My Duke, she replied. My frostbitten, insufferable Duke. Aftermath. They returned to London as a married couple, and the scandal melted away. It was hard to whisper about impropriety when the Duke and his new Duchess were so obviously, radiantly in love. Sebastian was not content merely to silence the gossip. He ordered his solicitors to investigate Lord Ashby's affairs. What they found, crushing debts, abuse of servants, documented cruelty to Eleanor, was enough. Within 6 weeks, Eleanor lived separately from her husband, her reputation restored by the Duke's public support, while Lord Ashby was quietly encouraged toward an extended, indefinite tour of the continent. You did this for me, Eleanor said, embracing her sister, hope returning to eyes that had long held none. I did this because it was right. No one should live the way you were living. Not ever. Epilogue. 8 years later. The garden at Thornfield Abbey bloomed in full summer color. Rosalind, Duchess of Thornfield, watched her husband attempt and fail to teach their twin sons proper cricket form, while their daughter Charlotte surveyed the scene from an oak tree, declaring herself an adventurer rather than a young lady. Your daughter is impossible, Sebastian said, dropping into the chair beside her. My daughter. Funny. When she's clever and charming, she's always mine. Cleverness is clearly inherited from my side. And the stubbornness? The refusal to follow rules? Unfortunate mutations, he said, lips twitching. Rosalind laughed and reached for his hand. 8 years of marriage, 3 children, countless challenges, and still his touch sent warmth spreading through her chest. I was thinking about the day we met, she said. The day you called me an arrogant peacock with the emotional depth of a puddle. The romantic sensibility of a cold fish. The peacock came later. He kissed her forehead. I was thinking of it too. How terrified I was underneath the frost. How certain I was that marriage meant misery. And now, I cannot imagine having lived any other way. You were worth every wall you knocked down. And you were worth believing that love didn't have to mean surrender. From across the garden, their son's squabbling rose into the golden afternoon air, and Charlotte's serene voice declared it was exactly why girls should be allowed to play cricket. Sebastian caught Rosalind's hand before she could go referee the chaos. pulling her back for one last kiss. "Thank you," he murmured, "for walking in late." "Thank you," she said, "for not accepting my refusal." Hand in hand, the Duke and Duchess of Thornfield crossed the garden to their children, their footsteps stirring the scent of lavender, their shadows stretching long in the golden light. It was noisy. It was messy. It was nothing like the quiet, controlled life Rosalind had once imagined for herself. It was everything she had ever wanted.